done did it.
So,
We should be live, by the way.
okay, I'll make a post. So here's kind of
Let's go.
thinking we should do it. I don't know if you had like an idea, but I was thinking like maybe we like talk about it a little bit first, listen to it in its entirety,
Ooh,
and then like yeah, just like start to finish, no talking,
that's awesome.
maybe, and then we like play it track by track. I make comments after. What do you think about that?
Originally, what I was gonna do is we talk about you, talk about the EP, and then do track at a time.
Okay.
But we could do a full listen through. That's
Yeah.
37 minutes. I think I looked it up.
Yeah. How much time do we have for the show?
I was shooting for no more than an hour or so. We can go over an hour, but
Yeah. I think if we have an hour and a half, that'll be like more than enough time
sure.
to do it.
Cool.
Maybe it's not a good idea, but I'd like hold on. I don't know if anyone's in here. I don't know if I should start talking about
Not yet.
what it is.
Wait for it. I want to make sure people can hear us.
Yeah, but I have like a kind of like a reasoning behind why I think that's a good idea to play it full.
I'll have to load up the tracks so they won't be seamless.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So then that will. Yeah. Well, then we'll just do track by track.
Okay. Well, we
Yeah.
should talk about that.
Yeah.
What up, Akuro Cart? Akuro Art. Hi. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello, everyone.
Shoutouts to why is everybody's name hard? Okay,
Edicus.
Edicus. Thanks for tuning in. Your name rocks. I'm sorry.
Akuro art. Akuro
Kart. It's like a ripoff of Mario Kart.
Yeah, but it's like the Japanese spin-off. It's like
Akuro
BlazBlue meets Mario Kart.
Necessary. Yeah. What? You can't hear anything? You're lying. Turn up your volume. I might be really quiet.
Yeah, me too. That's been an issue for me in the past.
Yeah.
But I think the MacBook has a good microphone setup.
Yeah, you're coming through really good.
Yeah, cool. Because last time I have literally like when I do it at home, I have like a 2008 webcam.
Throwback.
Yeah, you're like super digitizing right now. I don't know if I look horrible.
No,
coming through.
It's all good on my end, so hopefully it's good for the people who are streaming. It might suck for you. Just,
Yeah,
as long as you can hear me. Can you hear me all right?
that's all that matters. I can hear you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not sending because I'm not at home. For anybody who knows, I'm in Canada right now, and I'm not going to send you the audio. So I'll just say 3, 2, 1, play, and we'll listen to the thing front to back. When it's done, we'll come back and talk about it.
For the tracks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
How are we looking? Shout out to everybody tuned in. I'm going to make one more post.
So am I supposed? Hold on a second. Am I supposed to listen to it on my end? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I need to pull it up. I need to re-download it because this is not my computer.
Dude, have you ever had it where like the label is late to send you masters, so you end up... I bought my own EP once because a label wouldn't send me tracks in time for a show. So
That's pretty messed up. That's savage.
I was like, chart position,
luckily
man.
I've done all my own mastering, so I haven't had really an issue.
Yeah, that's what I normally do, but this is a while ago when I was trying somebody else.
Yeah. Typically it works, man. Like, it's good to have like second set of ears and skill set on your music. It can really benefit it, especially like when you spend a lot of time on it. You kind of you get like a weird perspective on your music, and it's sometimes damaging to keep working on it.
Hey, this isn't a Thursday hangout. We can't talk about stuff like that yet.
Okay. Sorry.
So, I don't know why he can't hear anything. I don't know. It's on your end, buddy. I mean, it's on your end, buddy. How's your connection, Jack? Jack. He's gone. Okay, so let's get started. Welcome to the listening party for the Bloodtinge EP from Oolacile. Yay! This is our first one. This is something that ever since starting Redline Reload, we've wanted to do. as a way to like add value to electronic music. If anybody was watching this stream with HeadX, I think it was last Thursday or the Thursday before, we were talking about how temporary in time electronic music really is. So like a track will come out and be huge, absolutely huge, and then like 2 months later, it's like, oh man, that track's so old, like no one's playing it anymore and stuff like that. You know, it's crazy.
I have a comment on that. Okay, so Prime Audio just uploaded the master for Degenerate on its SoundCloud today, and someone commented, "This song still sounds good." And I was like, I posted the clip like 3-4 months ago, tops. I'm like, that's how dated electronic music gets.
Do you know what my biggest pet peeve is? Is every time I upload a tune, someone says, "Nostalgia's back." It's like, dang it.
Like, it's like been 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So on those lines, we're trying to inject a little more of the audience so they can see the artistry that goes behind these tracks and the time and the inspiration, like what they were feeling at the moment. I feel like EPs especially are very much this is exactly how I feel at this moment. Albums are kind of like, I want to say something, you know, and there's a lot of tracks on this one, so I'm interested to know if there was an overarching concept. But
of course, yeah.
But yeah, they're always interesting to talk about. So I thought that would be kind of a cool show to do, and we're testing it out today. So thank you for being the guinea pig.
Yeah.
Johnny Foreplay might join. Johnny Foreplay might join to kind of help me co-host a little bit and check out the chat, because I'm going to be doing a lot of talking, and I'm going to try to watch the chat best I can. And then we got Sudden Death, is where Oolacile is right now. He's at his house.
Yeah.
So, so he's out.
He's out getting some sort of like drinks or something.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So.
But he'll be back and he'll be joining us like shortly.
Sweet. Make a ton of noise. Just knock things over when he comes in.
Yeah.
So
we all just suddenly die.
I don't have an air horn. I'm sorry. So we started talking kind of before the show started, and we were deciding how to even do the format of this show. And you said you wanted to play tracks. You wanted to play the EP from start to finish without breaks in between, rather than going through one track at a time. And I kind of want to know what are your thoughts on why you'd prefer it that way.
All right, so this is kind of something like I did in like my first EP, like Dark Sign, and I kind of expanded on it, and because I had more of a vision this time. When I was writing Dark Sign, I mean, I kind of did the same thing with this one, but it was a lot more spur of the moment. I'm going to talk more about this one, but basically, here's my point: is all the tracks in this are like, well, not all of them, but yeah, all of them. Okay, they're all from FromSoft games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne.
Nice.
And all of these tunes have dialogue, and if you listen to the dialogue and what they say, and you interpret it the way it's meant to be interpreted, and you listen to the album from start to end, it actually like tells a lot of the story and the lore that is from that game. So you can't, but just by listening to the game, the tracks I put together, and the intros and the breakdowns, and how it all goes in from track to track, you can get like a really good understanding of the story of the game and kind of what's happening.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so that's the way I wrote it, and I even wrote like the way the tunes end to be to join into each other. They're not like super like obvious, like it's like one giant song, but it was kind of meant to be played in a set. And every time I play these songs, I play them in this particular order because it tells the story. And
oh wow, cool.
Yeah, they line up nicely. Like if you listen to the record from beginning to end, there's like no like awkward or drawing pauses. Like it's a constant stream of Bloodborne. Besides the last tune, the last tune was kind of like when I wrote this EP, I started the first tune was Hunter's Farewell, I think. No, it was Adella. So I wrote Adella.
Okay.
And I think I wrote it actually on my girlfriend's laptop because she has a copy of Ableton on there.
What?
And massive. Yeah. So I started at her apartment, and I like had headphones, and I started writing the tune, and I got like the whole drop done and a little bit of the intro, and I Dropboxed it to myself, and I finished it like the next day, and from there I was like, and this is right when like Bloodborne came out, and I took like a few-day break of writing music to play Bloodborne, and I just finished the game and I was at her house and I was like, I need to write some more music. And I was pulling stuff from Bloodborne, dialogue from it, because I wanted to write a Bloodborne tune. And I wrote that tune, and then I was hearing all this dialogue, and I had the idea. I was like, I kind of want to just do like a Bloodborne EP.
That's awesome.
And as I was writing it, the first track and the next track, I was starting to be able to like piece together how I would structure it in my head. So I wrote Adella right after that, which is kind of like a nemesis character, in a sense to well, she's not, but they all go crazy. Anyways, there's a lot to the story of the game, but the first tune is like the doll, and she's kind of like your guide through the game.
Okay.
So that's a good way to introduce you to the record, which is kind of funny because the tune Hunter's Farewell, but the whole game is kind of like a spiral through madness, and it's it's a never-ending cycle too. So if you play the game, there's like this perpetual nightmare, so you can't really actually ever leave. So that's why it's a good way to start at the end. And she's also like kind of like your guide, so that's kind of the way it works. And
That's
you
sweet.
go through the record, yeah, and you hear all the dialogue from these people, and they kind of tell a story if you listen to it. The last track is not the last Bloodborne track is Degenerate, which is a collab with Uber, and that character we sampled is Ludwig, and he is his particular dialogue is from the DLC, so that takes place kind of like after the core game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a fitting place for it to be at the end. The thing with Deadly Duo, it's not a Dark Souls. I mean, it's not a Bloodborne, but a track, but it's a Dark Souls track. And when I wrote it, we wrote it together. We were done, and like I kind of had it sitting. I had this EP done already, and I just thought it would work because I needed it at home. And I listened to it, and I would never sacrifice like the integrity of an album, especially when I had already had a vision for it. And I've had times where people like labels, even like slightly like bigger labels and stuff, I'll send them an EP and they like, oh, we want this one track, and I'm like, I can't send you that one track because it's like part of this collection. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't have added it if I didn't think it was going to work. I thought it fit the vibe, and it's a very violent, aggressive tune, and I thought it was a good way to end the record, like a big kind of like final showdown, and I thought it was a nice way to top it off. So like, if you listen to this at home, I highly recommend you listen to it from beginning to end. And there are very DJ Tool friendly tracks. They have very long, simple breakdowns, so they kind of have like that 16 bars of like dullness. But they should still be creating enough that you can listen to all the tunes and the record from beginning to end without feeling like you need to skip or get bored. But that being said, they are designed to be able to play in a set, because when I write these tunes, I wanted them to kind of like incorporate in my set so I could play this Bloodborne story, because that's a huge part of like my theme and my name. And so these FromSoft games are like really interesting to me, and like a big part of like inspired me to write tunes, you know, and like they have they rub off on my theme a lot and the way I write.
Yeah, let's
talk about,
I wanted to talk about that because I wanted to ask you some of your background, because you're a relatively new artist, I would say, in the dubstep scene, for sure.
Yeah.
Not even a year. If you look at your first release, I think if this is the first release on Beatport, the remix of Artillery Shells by Suboxide.
Yeah.
So that's August 24th is your Beatport anniversary. So we're not even there yet.
Yeah, so I haven't have like a distribution for a year. Let's everyone say hello to Sudden Death.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes. So we'll get to him in a bit, but
Serious got me.
yeah. So so here's the thing. I've been writing tunes for a really long time, and I've been playing like guitar since I was like 12 years old, and I'm 21 now, so that's like 9 years of doing music. And what's this? Oh, thanks, dog. So yeah, I've been writing tunes for a long time, and music. And I was like got into heavy metal, and I was like the metal I was playing got like more and more technical and more aggressive. And when I first started out, like I was listening to kind of older stuff because my cousin had showed me metal originally, and he was like older than me, and he's like, "Oh, check out Metallica, Death, blah 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 blah." And as I got older, I was hearing about like more advanced, more technical bands. I was got into like the Faceless and Veil of Maya and Animals as Leaders, and even Joffrey Cowboy got like pretty tech for a while, and just music that was like really fun to listen to, and like you knew it took a lot of skill to write, but it was still like had an underlying like brutality to it. Because I like I just like tunes that have weight, you know, like I like things that have weight. But there's not to say I don't like any other type of music. I love music. I love pop music, and a lot of people hate on pop music, but I have an appreciation and a love for it. Writing simple tune, catchy tunes that work, you know. So. But when I found, my sister showed me electronic music when I was probably like, I don't know, like 13 years, no, not 13, like 14, 15 years old. And she was showing me more like super ravey music because she had just got into like raving, and raving was like becoming like a more like mainstream thing at this point, which was like six, 7 years ago. And it's like EDC was like still in LA. And she was showing me people like Bass Hunter and like Saber Pulse and like just really like melodic like electronic music that had melodies and stuff. And then she had showed me like Pendulum, and I had like really lost that. Yeah, I heard like Slam like and Tarantula, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I had like a really like huge love of electronic music at that point, but I hadn't really had the desire to like switch over to try to learn how to make it. I think like I had friends that had like FL Studio, and like the most we ever got was like sequencing drum patterns, and there was like Saw or something. It was like one of the plugins, and like we'd just like play. There's no actual like production involved, and this is at a very young age. And but sure, kids now are like making like bangers getting played out EDC at this age. But for me, it was a really slow process. Yeah. So as it kind of happened, like I think 2010 or something. My girlfriend at the time showed me like Skrillex, and it's like this like Scary Monsters or something I believe was the tune, or maybe something even before that. But Scary Monsters was like probably like the most simple tune, yeah. And then that had inspired me to like delve deeper into the genre because it would kind of just had my love for like electronic music, my newfound love, and like my other like my past of like heavy music, you know, that had super amount of weight to it, that was like dark and aggressive, and it kind of just like meshed the two things I love together, and it's like, this is like what I want to be doing. So I took the time to like learn how to do it, and I like researched dubstep and looked it up. I found like the Ministry of Sound compilation, and that had like Caspa, Resco, Bittenga, 12 Planet, Dr. P, just all the circus guys, a lot of like the OG guys, like some of the new guys like Excision, Downlink, and stuff all had like released on that compilation. So a lot of the guys who are like forefront, big top tier like bass heavyweights kind of were like in our position at that time, you know, but like all were on this compilation, you know. And so I found about that, and I was like, oh my god, there's all this sick music, and it had really inspired me. I downloaded a few different DAWs. I tried FL, I tried Logic, I tried Reason. I had Ableton, and I was stuck like in the performance mode, so I hated Ableton because I could never figure out how to get out of that stupid performance mode. So I thought the DAW was like trash. And I had seen a friend of mine, or a video, I believe, of someone in the arrangement mode, and I was like, oh my god, this is what I need to be doing, because I had already learned how to use Logic and stuff. So I gave Ableton a chance, and the workflow is way more intuitive to me, and I just love writing in Ableton. And I thought FL was cool. I thought FL had like the sickest sounds, like sound generators in it. And for the longest time, when I first started writing electronic music under my first alias, which was like Atlas or Atla 5, I was making like neuro-y tunes, and like neuro at like 140, like neuro at like 100, like neuro hop, neuro funk, like neuro at 174. Yeah, and it and I would always do what's it called? The thing you put pictures in, Harmor. Yeah, I used Harmor, and then I would like just like use the unison voices in there, and just like detune, and then like do some like tube distortion, some chorus, then bounce that out into Edison, and then bring it back into Harmor, and just like rinse and repeat until I had like this like noisy, breezy mess.
That's awesome.
And I was rewiring all that into Ableton, and beyond that, I would like do tons of filter movement, and my sound design process was like super like complex and intricate for like honestly no avail. But it was fun because I was making these really weird sounds, and I had spent so much time like doing sound design and writing tunes that I wasn't really getting anywhere with like my actual like production, because like my mix sounds were so shitty, and I was really anal about learning everything, and like what like the ratio on a compressor does, or what's a DC filter, or like what's a noise floor, or what's a ceiling, and what's a bit depth, like what's just everything, just all these technical terms, and I just wanted to learn it all and not so much actually write music because I was just nerding out super hard on it. I just want to be techie, and I had learned all this shit, but my ear like still wasn't that good. So I kind of was getting into dubstep, and I obviously had dubstep is what got me into it first. But the reason I started writing neuros because I was hearing like Cone Sound, Noisia, Culprit, and all these like Bristol crew and like people like European crew who are just like making shit that was like way beyond dubstep. So I was like, oh, I need to do this. But like I wasn't really able to like write on their like level because I was still new to it and still hadn't taken the time to actually like hone in my ear for actually like producing. Um, so I was doing that, and well, I basically like got back into the new underground wave for dubstep, and that's like when I heard about like Trollface, um, Juju, Roto, Midnight Tea, Dubloads, a ton of like the up and coming underground who is now like also like playing in DC, and you know they're not the high tier, but I was like, oh, I kind of want to do this, and there was another few guys who like Creation, like Invictus, who were doing some cool stuff. So I was like, oh, this shit I can make really easily, and I can spend some time actually like learning about how to mix down and getting my ear together, and I don't need to spend 10, 20 hours making one Reese bass that I'm only going to use like for like 10 seconds of my track.
Exactly.
So what I started doing, I switched over to just like being 100% Ableton and just using Massive and just making like dubstep-y sounds. And for a while I still wasn't that good, but I was able to really like nail in the mix down. And then I think I had monitors at the time, but then like a whole bunch of other stuff happened in my life, and I like kind of like my room kind of got tore apart. I think it got flooded, and so like they had to rip the floor out, and there's like mold growing, so we had to like shut it all off from the house. So I was sleeping like on a couch or like in a storage room for the longest time for like probably like 5 or 6 months while they fixed my room. And I was producing everything off of like some like shitty $50 Sony headphones and my laptop speakers. And that's when I was writing like pretty much everything before Soul Slinger was written on the Oolacile thing was all written on laptop speakers or little cheap headphones. And then I got these monitors back, and I had a sub. I just got a sub too, the KRK sub. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it was night and day. Like my production level went through the roof like instantly. My first time using them, and that's kind of when people like started like really noticing, because I like maybe my writing like progressed a little bit, but not like too much where it's a huge difference. I think what people really wanted to hear was like the production quality, you know, having tunes that sounded professional that they could play out in their set and they would know would sound good, stand out. So I did that, and I think I got like a repost from like Squanto or something, and he like shared one of my like Soul Slinger, and then that kind of like helped get my name out there a little bit. And then I did that tune Oracle, and
EDM, I played that a lot.
Yeah. So dubstep.net found out about that somehow. I have no idea. And then they messaged me, Daniel Spira, who's like their A&R, messaged me, and he's like, dude, we really want to debut this. I was like, oh, this is so sick, because my friend, my buddy who lives in my town, Ravical, had like just started out, and I helped him all. I was like, dude, these are the monitors you need to get. And I like helped him and stuff, and he started producing way after me, but had a really good ear and like has also been in metal bands, you know. So he had like this really quick, like fast learning curve, and he got really good within like a year or two. And then he was doing all this stuff on EDM.com, and he like blew up super fast. Like not blew up, but he like passed me. I think I had like 400 followers, 500 followers when EDM hit me up, and he had already had like 4,000 because he was releasing a lot of tunes with EDM.com. So they were posting him, and they're doing the follow gates, and he was like blowing up super quick. So, but he kind of stopped, but he'll be back. So Ravical is going to be making a comeback. So they hit me up, and then I did the remix competition for the Suboxide tune. And I've seen tons of remix contests, and I never bother with them, but I saw that the prize was to be released on Prime Audio, and I thought that was so sick, because I had always wanted to release on Prime Audio because I had seen so many people go through there. I think Funk Case even released on there, and I think Getter released on there. I know Midnight Tea released on there, and I was like, oh, I need to release on Prime Audio. So I was like, and I had never released anything under my name too, so I was like, this is my chance. And I just got my monitors back. So I downloaded the stems, and I worked on that tune relentlessly. That tune has, I think, 35 saves to it.
Nice.
And I think there's probably about 7 versions of like actual just different drop tunes. And then the rest are mix down changes in the mix down. And it was funny with Joe, like Suboxide. because I kept sending him the new version. And he was like, "Oh dang!" He's like, "It just keep getting louder and louder and louder." To the point he's like, "Dude, can you actually like make it quieter? Because like I have EP up to your level." So that was like a thing we had to do. And I was like, "Dude, I can like master your EP for you." He's like, "Oh no, I need to do my own masters." And he sent it to Acting Damage, I think, and he wasn't too stoked on him. So like he ended up doing it. I think we kind of like found an even ground. I think what I actually did is I had my full master chain because I mixed it to a certain volume, you know, and I actually brought the volume down after the limiter.
So there's like
headroom
space in
it. So it's still equally as squashed, but it doesn't, on the record, it doesn't sound overbearingly loud.
I remember him complaining to me about that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what happened in that sense, and then that really helped because I started releasing on Prime Audio, and like Prime Audio, Melvin's super cool, and he was like helping give me promo that I like was never really able to get before, and he invited like everyone to like my page, and I think he got me up to like 1,000 followers, and I had like 20 at the time within like a month. So he really jump started me, really awesome, and EDM jump started me. And I'm like so thankful, man, like that these people like entrusted me and like saw something in me and put the time into like helping me grow. Because all I was ever doing writing music, and I'm always weird about sending my music to people. Like I have a really hard time like asking for things. I just really want my music to speak for itself, and it kind of has, and it's got me like this far, and I hope it keeps going, and
cool.
It seems like it does. Yeah, so that's kind of the backstory on me.
Boom.
I don't know what the original question was.
I didn't have to ask any questions. I was just like going for it. That's awesome. No, I think that pretty much covers it. I looked up your releases, and I was trying to see when I was starting to listen to your stuff.
Yeah.
And I definitely played out Oracle and Cursed every set for a long time.
Cursed is kind of a funny one because when I wrote that tune, I kind of dug it, and everyone, like all the bigger people play it. Like Virtual Riot plays it, Doublets plays it, you play it, Midnight Tea was playing it, and like I played it, and I was like, this song doesn't really feel like that sick when I played it. Like I had originally liked it when I wrote it, but I would be playing tunes like Adella and like Hunter's Farewell and like Odeon and so all these other tracks, and I could just see people like, oh, go nuts, and I play Curse, and they're just like, oh yeah. and I was like, it's kind of weird to me, and I just think it's kind of the people who like my tunes expect like chaos, you know, from my songwriting. It's not necessarily like, it's like very organized chaos, you know, and it's chaos that it's just intensity, you know. And I think Cursed has more of an accessible rhythm to it, and for like the crowd, depending on the crowd, people who are used to like more accessible type tunes, it fits better in those sets. But I think for someone who's like beginning an onslaught of like violence, it's just kind of like doesn't have the same level of intensity that the other tunes in my set would have, you know?
That's what I would say, is it's definitely a switch up for a lot of those artists, whereas for your set, it's probably a little more par for the course.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, have we decided? Are we going to listen to the whole thing front to back and then break down the tracks?
So we're definitely going to just listen to them when I have time.
Okay.
But I really encourage anyone watching the show to listen to it, put it in VLC or iTunes or whatever, and listen to it start to finish at least once. See if you can do it. I think you'll really benefit from it and kind of hear it the way it was like intended to be listened to. Because that's kind of the way I play it. I mean, when I play, I don't play the second drops, but I mix all the key elements, so like you're hearing it, the track from start to finish in a sense that is logical. But the way I'd like to play it is the whole EP live. But then that may be a little too dull. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Be a dead mouse iPod. All right, so let's load up. Hunter's Farewell is the first track.
Let me get into iTunes.
So what we're going to do is I'll say 3, 2, 1, play. We'll listen to the whole tune until it's done. And then
we'll
talk about it. And if you're going to listen on monitors, just mute your Skype mic.
Yeah, I was going to mute my Skype mic. I hit the wrong mute button. Yeah, sorry. I'm not trying to blow anyone's ears out.
All right, you ready for this?
No, I'm not.
Sweet.
I will tell you.
39.
Okay.
38.
Yeah, I'm ready. Wait, this is the wrong tune. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
I'm ruining the show.
You're ruining the show. Spent years on this show.
Years.
And you guys, if you like what you hear, it is out today. Beatport.
Yeah. This, I don't know. I think most of you probably know, but this record came out literally this morning, 6 a.m. at my time.
Woo.
And it's been a really long time coming. Like it's been done for a while, and it's been a really hard process getting the art the way I wanted it to. And I'm really happy with kind of like the way it's come together. So I'm excited to share it with everyone, and hope you guys like it too. And I'm going to talk about each tune after we listen to it and play it all together. So yeah, let's give it a go. Count me off, man.
3, 2, 1, play.
O flora of the moon, of the dream. O fleeting will of the ancients. Let the hunter be safe. Let her find comfort. And let this dream, her captor, be one day a fond, distant memory. O flora of the moon, of the dream. O fleeting will of the ancients. Let the hunter be safe. Let her find comfort. And let this dream, her captor, be one day a fond, distant memory. O little ones. O flora of the moon, of the dream. O fleeting will of the ancients. Let the hunter be safe. Let her find comfort. And let this dream, her captor, be one day a fond, distant memory. O flora of the moon, of the dream.
Oh no. Sorry if that
O
was really
fleeting
loud.
will of the ancients.
Sorry.
Let the hunter be
Oh
safe.
gosh. That was
Let
so
her
loud
find
for me.
comfort. this dream. Her captive.
Okay, is that better? Let me know in the chat.
O flora of the moon, of the dream. O fleeting will of the ancients. Let the hunter be safe.
We got Juicy
Let her
Lab.
find comfort.
It was I turned off that Windows bringing the volume down thing, but it didn't actually happen until I restarted FL, and then I hit play with like full blast, and I was like, ugh!
Yeah, that's what's up. Just freaking destroy everyone.
All right, did you guys sorry. Did you guys hear that, or should I play it again? Let me know.
We're gonna give this tune a reload.
All right, reload. Redline reload.
Wait, no, actually, no, wait. Did it play all the way through? In the chat, everyone send a thumbs up emoji if it played all the way through. And send a winky face if it didn't get all the way through.
Please help, please.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like triplet tune.
They don't know how to do thumbs up.
Neither do I. Yeah.
It played all the way through.
Okay. So yeah, okay, that tune all played all the way through. I didn't get to hear it, but I don't really know what to talk about then because I didn't really get to hear it.
You didn't get to hear it at all?
Okay, do you have any prompt? I mean, it's my song, so I've heard it.
No,
but,
I got plenty of stuff to talk about. Yo, you don't worry. You don't worry.
Yeah, dude, send me some questions about it.
Yeah.
Prompt me.
So, okay, so just talking about the sound design, just to start there for funsies. I think me and a lot of people are in love with the vibrato sounding, almost like hitting a spring behind a door sort of bass sound. Oh, why is Skype not showing up? Hold on. Wow, just 1,000,001 problems.
The show's a disaster.
It's a disaster. Why'd you do this? There we go. Okay.
Can't believe you've done this.
I can't believe you've done. Shout out to Suboxide. Yeah. So I love that sound personally. I think it's super cool, and it made me. It was a catalyst to another thought where I was thinking about what you've released so far, and I'd say you've definitely come to a sound.
Yeah.
That springy sound is part of it. They're all kind of this like play on delays. Is that kind of what happened? What kind of goes behind that sound?
So I mean, what you're hearing a lot is well, actually, what you're hearing is pitch, the change of pitch, but it's not the change of pitch on the dry signal. You're hearing pitch through delays. So you're either hearing delay on a separate channel that has automations, or you're hearing something that can automatically do with any sort of time-based effect. So you can get this stuff on by automating like a stereo delay. So you can automate the delay time. You can obviously put a flanger on and dial in the flanger settings because you have two different delay times. And then there is the rate at which the delay times move. So you can get pitch that way by dialing that in. And then same thing with chorus. Actually, chorus is what I just described. Flanger is one delay time, and but with many poles. So you're basically any sort of like delay situation that is changing in pitch. Grain delay is another great one, where you can actually dial in each repetition of the delay with a new pitch, without having to automate. It's just you set the parameters and it'll do it. So it's kind of what a lot of sound design is, and a lot of this can actually happen. And I think in that particular tune, it's not with any sort of actual delay, but it's with the comb filter, which is a delay, but it's in the patch. So what you're hearing is an envelope on the cutoff parameter in massive, but the envelope doesn't necessarily re-trigger. So you're hearing it kind of go through a cycle when the sound keeps going through.
Yeah.
And that allows the sound to hit many different time-based delays while the sound is continuing. Yeah.
So it's crazy. So when you say
yeah, exactly.
When you say it's different pitches, do you mean different speeds?
Well, so yeah, okay. Well, a speed of a delay, and with any given amount of feedback, is going to create a pitch, like a harmonic series to your sound. And if it's wet enough, you can actually just dial in notes that way, and not even hear the actual signal. Like, so people use Effectrix, and they're like, oh, I use tonal delay. Tonal delay is literally a delay, and it's a comb filter. But the settings are the intervals of time set to pitches. So like each delay time has a specific pitch, and that's what people who use Effectrix do. So they dial in a note for each given like delay time, rather than having to like look it up and do the math themselves.
It's funny because Johnny Foreplay was looking for a plugin to do that, but like was neglecting to check tonal delay for the longest time.
Yeah.
And he finally checked it, and he's like, "Oh."
Oh yeah. By the way, it's the part tonal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's sick. We could talk more about it as more of the sounds come in. That's awesome. Definitely hear the delays. I want to ask a interesting question. Did you ever mix? So you said you wrote metal music, right? Or you did some rock stuff before electronic music?
So I was playing guitar for like metal bands. Yeah.
Did you ever do any mix downs in like Guitar Pro or like?
Okay, so any sort of like recording I did was like with like a pod farm or like a guitar rig. And it was when I was like 14 years old, so they were pretty trash recordings. But I would like dial in like tones and stuff and get a nice like gainy tone.
The reason I asked is because I wanted to know what your theory is on drum panning, because it seemed like the hi-hat's over where a hi-hat should be on a drum set, which is silly because it's like none of this sounds like a drum set, but it seems like you're following some of the conventions of panning by drummer's position.
Well, I mean, okay, so basically, so where you're hearing the hi-hat on any sort of like studio recording or like any sort of rock band, I mean, you'll hear bleed, so your hat won't be like dead this way. It'll be like stereo, but most of the information you're hearing is going to be like on the left side, right? So you're going to be hearing that your hi-hat when it's coming through the speakers. Some people reverse it because like, oh, it's from the perspective of the drummer. But when you listen to music, you hear it on the left. So that's kind of the way I approach it. And the reason I stick with that is because I'm a really huge proponent of creating space in a tune, and not necessarily about like imaging, but like making room so that everything can get as loud as I want it to get. And that's kind of like a big trick with getting things loud is by making sure there's nothing fighting. Everything is like has a designated spot. And something like a cymbal and stuff, which is naturally a very stereo sound, there's like no content really like that should be mono. I try to keep them very stereo and out of the way of everything that is mono, so that things that have mono information can come through nice. So I don't leave my cymbals or my hats or anything that is really high-endy, because high-end, for me, that doesn't necessarily need to be this way, but most engineers will agree that high-end equals stereo, you know, and low-end equals mono, and I kind of work that way through my tune. So like the kick and sub are always dead mono, and as you go up, you get just a little more stereo and a little more stereo. So like the cymbals take up completely stereo information, and then the synths are sent somewhere in the middle, and then the snare's body is mono, but the top, the sizzle is always stereo. Definitely. So I split that into two. And there's a plugin I just got, which is really cool. I think it's called like G mono or something. It's by the G Clip guys, and you just drop it on, and it's one knob, and it literally makes everything below that frequency mono. And really? I just drop it on every snare, so like I go right above the fundamental, and the fundamental is now mono, and I get all the top, and it's all stereo.
That's sweet. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
Last thing for this tune, since these are all part of a story, could you set could you tell us the narrative of that first tune before we go to the second one?
Check it out. So this one is hold on, I need to pull up the track. This one is the doll, who kind of is like your guide throughout the game. And where's VLC? Okay, so yeah, this tune is basically setting you up and is basically telling you about the nightmare, which is like what you're participating in. And in this game, everyone's like out on the hunts, but there are two different sort of hunters. There's like the hunters who you play as, and then there's actual the townsfolk who have been possessed by tainted blood, because in this game, people like consume blood for like a cultural reason, for a good reason, and then the blood, they started harvesting it from like different sources, which I don't really want to spoil too much, but you find out through like deep in the game, and those sources basically corrupt the entire town, and people become like beasts and stuff, and like monsters. So the people have these hunts, and they go out to kill the monsters and beasts, and but the people they hunt themselves have become beasts. So you are your own hunter, going out to hunt the hunters who are out hunting beasts. So that's like, it's like a really interesting concept, which is why I really love these games. But basically, this is what she's telling you is like, there's a hunt out tonight, and this is like the dream, and you're the doll, and that's how it kind of goes on. And if I need to find the dialogue, there's a whole second set of dialogue in this tune that I'm kind of forgetting. If I can pull it up really quick, hold on.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, so the second set of dialogue is through the end of the game, and which isn't too much of a spoiler. It is kind of a spoiler, but it's like if you play any Dark Souls game, you understand that like the games repeat, so you have multiple playthroughs in the game because they're designed in a way that when the story ends, it actually kind of picks up again. And it's basically telling you that you're a captive in this dream. You're in the hunter's nightmare, right? And you're stuck there, and you need to follow this certain task to free yourself, and that's what this is. So that's why this is kind of like a good intro tune, because you must do this in order to free yourself from the nightmare. And then as the tunes go on, it progresses, kind of giving you insight of what the nightmare actually is. You know?
I want to know more now. Let's
yeah, definitely.
Let's move on to this Adella tune. This is tune number 2.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Loading. Got it loaded? Okay. I couldn't see your visual cue, so I'm gonna go ahead and say you got it loaded. 3, 2, 1, play.
The hunt is on tonight. Then the streets are perilous, and every door will be shut tight. Express my gratitude to you. The only thing that I can offer is my own lowly blood. Have you renewed thoughts on this matter? Now, take my blood. Success
There it is.
Yeah.
Are you playing something? Sorry.
Huh? No.
No, my wife was playing something.
Oh, okay.
So there's so many things that I wrote down that I want to talk about, but I'm trying to spread it out over all the tracks. So something I noticed, especially in this one, was verb on the top basses. And if anybody doesn't know, if I say top bass, it's all the parts that you call bass. Is probably all the parts of the track that are talking, that give it the rhythm, the synths essentially, and then sub bass is the low end.
Bass. Yeah. Beef.
So what I'm hearing is some kind of platey verbs, but I think there's also some longer, washier ones too, maybe. And I'm wondering, what kind of verbs do you use, and do you do verb muting to get some power, or do you kind of just let them sit there?
Okay, so the verb muting is not done at all in this tune, but I use that as like an effect. Only time I actually first heard about that is when I heard the Jaguar tune by Schism and Megalodon and I think Abstract, I believe. And that's like a big effect they use in that tune, because you have like super dry and the end is like big. And I think the way they did that in that tune is they bounced the entire track or all the synths with just a wet reverb, and then they put that underneath it and they manually cut out everything. But the way I do it, but it's not done in this tune. I just want to talk about it. Is I put it on my reverb on a send, and I actually sidechain my synth group to that send, so that the reverb is being sidechained out, and then when the track stops, the reverb comes up. Yeah, so that's the way I do that. But on this tune, I typically don't use a lot of reverb, but on this tune, it's still not a lot, but it's definitely very present. And this tune has I feel like a really ominous tone, and I feel like a way to kind of keep the ominous, like kind of haunting vibe is by having everything kind of be like a little washed out. And even though nothing is like per se like really washed out, there's nothing just like that super abrasively present in this track. Even though my tracks are abrasively abrasive, just mix down wise, I think this is a softer one. Yeah.
The basses are lower, I think, and that's kind of a product of the reverb, I think.
Yeah.
I wrote down kitchen sink drums. So I've always loved, since the first tracks I heard from you, your little tom fill things that are all skittery. I wanted to steal that so bad that when I first heard your tunes, I was like, that's so cool. But this one also has like kitchen sink drum fills. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but they're like, I don't know if there's some organic pots and pans or.
No, that's a good call. And this particular tune, and I think I do it a few times on this record, and I was doing it for a while actually, and it's I got into it. I was digging for like break beats, and I found a ton of break beats. And what I was doing was I was getting the break beats, and I wasn't just using them as breaks, but I was actually doing what an engineer would, and I would go in and cut each transient out of the break, and then layer them onto the grid, and then pan each break, each hit, like each note in the break. So you're not hearing like an unquantized break or like a quantized break. You're hearing an actual like chopped up break, and it's being like modulated the way I would like do like a fill that was just like a percussion sample, but it sounds more organic and real because it is. It's like taken from like funk records or jazz records or you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's sweet. Yeah, I love the effect that has, and I like that you're not using that, because I'd say if we're going to talk about, we might as well keep building on your sound, which is always something hard to define for the artists themselves. So I'll help you out. So
definitely.
So the springy sounds, those springy delays, and those little tom fills are very much part of your sound, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. And that's just like kind of something that I've like discovered when writing that I just really liked, and I thought like was unique and sounded cool to me, you know, because when I write tunes, I don't have really any other desire than to write something that I think sounds good. And I have a really high standard on music and production, and if my tunes are kind of like come out kind of wonky, It's basically because I've like just given up on them, and a lot of tunes never see the light of day. But some tunes I think are good enough that like they deserve to at least be posted, but may never actually see a release. But this tune Adella is like a tune that I really liked, and it wrote really fast. And I wrote Hunter's Farewell, and I really liked writing it, so I immediately wrote this one.
Nice.
Right after, and took a lot of the same like elements and sound design that I was doing in the last tune, and then did it in this.
Sweet. What's the story behind this one?
Okay, so yeah, Adella is a nun in the game, and she's kind of a good person, and a lot of the people you meet in the game are good. When you start off with your dialogue, she's telling you. It's a good place to take off on the last one because the first one's beginning is telling you you're in a nightmare, right? So it's setting up that you're in a nightmare. This one is telling you what your job is and you're on a hunt, which is kind of what I talked about in the last one. But the last one is about the nightmare. This one's about the hunt. So she's telling you about the hunt, and as it goes on, you kind of see her delve into madness because as the game progresses, all the NPCs literally lose their mind because the nightmare gets progressively more like hellish. And so the mid dialogue, she's like, oh, I'm super nice to see you. This is what's happening. Do your job. This is kind of like the situation you're in. Middle, she's kind of like hesitant. And at the end, she just straight up like lost her mind. It's just hysterical, like crying, laughing mixture, And and then it has a nice little comeback soon at the end to invite you into the rest of the EP.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Let's check out Spoiled Blood with MurDa. I'm excited to re-listen to this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Spoiled Blood. Loading. All right. 3, 2, 1, play.
The night is long and I've very little of the incense left. This is a nightmare. All I can give is my blood. Would you even take a whore's blood? Perhaps I'll see you there. For my blood, I presume. see you there.
Forgive me, I'm a bit out of sorts. No blood today, I'm afraid. Come again whenever you please.
Yo.
Yo.
So, sick tune. We've got some questions from the chat, and I will get to those. First, before I even listen to the tune, having heard the backstory for this whole release, what was it like working on a concept and having a collab partner? Was there anything weird about that? And did you like?
No. So here's what's really funny about this concept is that this tune was a throwaway tune by MurDa that he was never gonna finish, and it like all those like kind of like trenchy-ish sounds. He had like 16 bars of like that kind of going, like just like the like super massive-y trenchy sounds. And he was like, we were on a Skype call and he's just cycling through project files. Like, oh, dude, that's so sick. Send it to me. He's like, oh, I hate it. I was like, no. I was like, oh, you should finish it. So I said, he's like, no, I'm never going to finish it. I was like, send it to me then. I'll finish it.
Yep.
And I basically like squoze it into my EP.
Sweet.
So it's basically just like a 16 bar kind of loop that he had that I fleshed out into this entire tune.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's sweet. So I think the highlight of this tune from a sound design standpoint would be those background sounds that happen throughout the track. Now I want to try to call out one of these sounds. You can especially hear it in the sub and drums breakdowns before builds. Is that a granulized door shutting, like a creak that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is actually exactly what that is, and it's like pitched down an octave.
Okay.
Yeah. So I basically downloaded a folder of a ton of like Foley sounds, just like random real world recordings, and a lot of those were like manipulated into background sounds. There's like one that sounds like, I don't know, like you're like smashing something, like someone's brain or something, and I think that was one I did. I think it's just me ripping paper, and then that's also like detuned like 5 semitones or something.
Is that the kind of tingly one? There was one that was kind of, yeah, that was sick.
It's that one. Yeah. And then you hear one that's like, yeah, and that's just the instrument rack in Ableton. There's a grand piano instrument rack, and I did like a chord with like some like random like notes that were in the key, and I did that, bounced it to audio, time stretched it by like triple the length, and then reversed it. I bounced it with reverb on too. So the thing has a really long reverb tail, so it's super washed out. And then I bounce it like that, and then reverse that, so you get like this ominous, like fucked up pad sound.
That's crazy.
That comes in. Yeah, so I do that. So that's kind of the one things I really like about this tune too, that really makes it like super dark and eerie, is just like all the real world sounds that are happening behind it that are like severely mutated to sound terrifying.
Did I hear a can opening? Like a pop can?
No.
What is that
No,
sound?
I don't think. I think that one is probably another paper variation, because I did like a few things of paper.
There is something that really sounds like a pop can. I think it happened in the
there's
sub
like
drum breakdown.
There's like some like wood dropping, like wood blocks dropping, just like piles of wood. There's coin sounds. In fact, that gun in the tune is a massive patch, but the main like really gun aspect of it is a coin drop that I recorded on like a marble floor. Dropped like a quarter,
Nice.
and recorded that with like my C414, and then just like layered that on every gun hit. So like you hear the top chain like bullet shell is just a quarter on the ground.
I love that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
and then I do weird, like a lot of my guns typically, like my gun sounds have like weird layers that you really don't think of, like in the Uber collab, Disabled, not this one, but like our other one, like the main gun in that, it has like someone coughing layered on it, so you hear like, and like every gun hits like, yeah,
That's awesome. That's good because I feel like a lot of guns, they aren't original, and I'm not angry or
Yeah.
sick of the guns that you end up using. So
yeah. I think if you heard the original patch, you would be sick of them, but like processing and layering that occurs is kind of what makes them like cool, you know, and interesting.
do you use and this might be MurDa? Did I hear volume LFO on some of the basses to give it motion?
Yeah, so that's actually okay. So it depends on the riser. That wasn't so. There's the one riser, and that wasn't actually in the original thing. That's like just like the MurDa riser, and I was like,
Yeah.
just send me the riser. I want to use it in this tune, and I think I layer it with this like straight screech of mine,
Okay.
and that is with volume automation because he uses volume automation on that sound, that particular sound.
I
And all
figured,
my
yeah.
sounds actually have the amp modulated. So I put the same LFO. I use LFOs a lot. I'm not a big performer fan, but I do use them. Like whatever gets the job done. All my sounds typically have an LFO also on the amp. And but for that particular screech, I use auto pan. But I have the pan off, so it acts as a tremolo. So it's
Yeah.
following the same exact rate that MurDa sent me on his riser.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a ton of volume modulation occurring in this track and all my tracks actually, for that matter.
That's awesome. Last thing I wrote for this was you did something that's a personal favorite of mine, and I would hope that people are like, hey, that's a nostalgia thing, even though it's really kind of nerdy production composy. I don't think people would call it out, but in the bass, there was a little melody riff that you made using the harmonics of a sound.
Yeah.
Do you like? Is that something that you like doing? I just noticed it. And whenever I hear that, I'm like, yes, because that's like one of my favorite things to do ever.
Yeah. So typically, a lot. Okay. So like in dubstep, pretty much like now, everyone's sound design is pretty atonal. Like the synths, like there actually is no like fundamental note in any of the sound design. So your melody comes from your actual sub because that's the only thing you can actually articulate. You know, and in this tune, and I do it in other tunes. I kind of took like a couple liberties in creating a melody with the sub. So the synths actually don't really change too much, but the melody is coming from just the sub. And there's like no actual like particular like harmonic overtones in the sub, but I think on this one I can like kind of give it a little more room, like with the low pass, so that you can kind of hear like three bands of sub. Because typically like sub you only have like two, so you have like your 40 and like your 80. But I think this one kind of goes up to like 120. So you have your third interval of sub, so you can kind of hear it. It sounds better like on smaller systems, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Some tunes have a really hard time when the sub goes up that high because the synths start to fight with that amount of sub. So you need to separate them a lot. And on this tune, a lot of these synths are really high mid content. There wasn't a lot of like really weight in the low mids. So I took a lot of liberties on cutting it out and letting the sub kind of fill that up so that I could do some cool melody with the actual bass line.
Nice one.
And then the bass line moves a lot too with there's volume automation on the actual sub.
Nice. So do you do you make multiple subs to make that a little easier? Like
No.
It's all just one sub.
It's all automated. If I need to turn off like a tremolo, I'll bypass it for that moment in time. I automate the rate. If something needs to be like quieter there, I'll automate the cutoff of the low pass. I do a lot of automation. I'm not a big copy paste guy. I don't like to have two of the same patch anywhere in a tune.
I feel like that was the name of the game back in the day. It would always be like I'd have like 20 massives open.
Yeah, it's just, like I collab with a lot of people, and like if they want to have like an 8th note go to a 16th note,
I
they
used
would
to do that.
duplicate the patch and be. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, you realize there's mod 5 density, and you can automate mod 5 density and massive. Yeah.
I remember when I discovered that, I was like, what?
Yeah, right? It's game changing, and your projects become so much cleaner, and you can like make automation lanes, and you can hide your lanes. It's just so much neater and nicer, and it's a lot easier to get in the right when you have that sort of control rather than having to duplicate so many things.
I am on your side, for sure. What's the story behind Spoil Blood?
Yeah, okay, so this is Ariana, and you find her in the game because there's a lot of people you find throughout the game who you can kind of help, and there's some of them who you help and kind of betray you. But Ariana is a prostitute, right? And she gives you her blood. And her blood is some of the best blood that you can get, and blood like heals you and actually gives you like buffs and stuff. Because you have blood vials which heal you, but then her blood is special, and it gives you like a buff so that you're like even stronger when using her blood. But her blood also has like negative effects to it as well, because she's like a whore and has like tainted blood. So she kind of gives you that backstory on like consuming blood in the game and like different types of blood, which is what the game's all about. There's like so many different types of blood, and kind of like what the whole game's about, like what transforms the game. Like I think the pale blood is kind of what is the onset for the whole thing, because that comes from the moon presence. And moon presence is an entity that you meet very late in the game, and is like a beast and a demon, and that is kind of what like turns the whole town into chaos of Yharnam. Yeah.
That somebody in the chat actually mentioned pale blood. He's like, could he explain the drill sound and what pale blood is?
There you go.
Let's get to this old blood and learn about some more blood types.
Yeah. Hold on, let me load it up.
Samesies.
Okay, I got it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, play.
Satiates us, soothes our fears, seek the old blood. But beware, the frailty of men, their wills are weak, minds young. Remain wary of the frailty of men. Were it not for fear, death would go unlamented. Satiates us, soothes our fears, seek the old blood. But beware, the frailty of men, their wills are weak, minds young. Remain wary of the frailty of men. Seek the old blood. The old blood. satiates us, soothes our fears. Seek the old blood. But beware the frailty of men. Their wills are weak, minds young. Remain wary of the frailty of men. Were it not for fear, death would go unlamented.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Dude. When I was previewing these tunes, I didn't listen to the second drop of that tune, and I am definitely going to cut the second drop into the first drop and play that one instead. That's sick.
Yo, okay, funny story about the second drop. I had originally written a second drop for it that was fucking atrocious. Like, it was so bad. And I know Squanto would always play it out, and like Squanto was the only guy who like made me like feel like okay with it. He's like, oh, I love this second drop, it's so sick. Only because it was all long synths. It was just one long synth. So it was like for like 3 bars. And so, but okay, my hard drive is corrupted, and all these tunes, I luckily had the waves backed up on Dropbox.
Good.
So that's the only reason this EP has survived.
Oh, so you just cut it up, didn't you?
So what I did, I duplicated the first drop and chopped it up and just manipulated, pitched up, reversed, granulized all the sounds, and did the new second drop all in audio off of one wave.
That's sick,
So I bootlegged
dude.
my own track.
That's nuts. So like, I've had similar things kind of happen, but not to that level and not executed that well. Because like, I mean, it's cool, and anybody, you know, this is more of a Thursday hangout thing to say, but like, take that to heart, is that this genre specifically is about capitalizing on mistakes. For real.
Definitely. Amen, dude.
That's where the cool sounds come from. All of the
Right?
accidents.
Exactly.
But no, that's amazing actually, that it because I was like, man, that's just so much time and care. Because if you wanted to do that with automation, that'd be such a pain, you know?
Yeah.
But that's sick, man. That's awesome to hear. I definitely noticed also, the first note I made was this tune made later than the other ones? Because it sounds different. There's some different basses, I think, different ideas in the sound design.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, if you got anything with that.
Okay, so yeah, this tune was just it was made around the same time. It was made after Adella and Hunters for Well, but not like 3 months later. It was like within like the same month.
Okay.
30-day period of time. And when I was writing this, I just basically wanted to make something that was like growly and heavier, you know?
Mhm.
And that's just kind of what I set out to do, is make something that just had like a deeper, darker weight to it. That wasn't so more of that like delay, pitch delay situation going on. I just wanted something that was more straight up, heavy growl sounds, you know? And that's kind of how this tune came about.
What about the, there's a completely different kick. So...
okay, so here's a weird thing. The kick, it's funny. I don't know if the kicks even sounds like good. I have no idea. I did something super like bad, and I would never recommend doing this, but I basically just rolled with it because it had sounded good when I played it out. And I was like, all right, it's fine. I actually boosted the master track at like 80 hertz, like right there where the kick is. So the master has like this huge boost at 80 hertz for whatever reason, and I cut it out of everything else so that the kick can like come through on the master. And I would have never done that because that's like something that's like is danger zone. But I just, after listening, I was like, hey, it works. It comes through nice. And I definitely used a different kick. I think in this tune, I didn't even use a kick I made. Typically, I synth my own kicks. And for a long time, actually recently, I've been using a kick that Spencer sent to me, Digitist. And it's just a nice, clean kick. And I've been using that in a lot of tunes. And but on this whole EP and a lot of other tunes, I synth my own kicks. And I think this kick in particular is like a Vengeance House Club Essential kick.
It sounds more like that.
It's like a Vengeance Club Essential kick is what it is. And I thought it worked. And after a lot of like trial and error, I think I got it kind of where I want it to. I'm not sure if it sounds bad or not, but
I didn't mind it. I just noticed it, and I'm listening on headphones. But it also sounded like it had like a bit crush top end click to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So here's another thing I do with sub kicks. I low pass the kick, and then I bit crush the kick with like a downsampler, so that it adds high end back into the kick that is clean and even. Nice. You have an even series of high end harmonics and then I like cut out like the 20K and above, so there's no actual like piercing overtones. Yeah, and that's kind of what I did in this situation. Not kind of, but exactly what I did for this kit.
That's interesting because I've done that a lot for audio restoration, especially with samples. And I've never tried that with a kick as like a creative choice, I don't think. That's cool.
Yeah. Ableton has, I mean, I didn't do it on this kick, but Ableton has this cool plugin called Erosion. And it has different sort of like downsampling algorithms that add harmonics, but only in a specific band. And also a stereo. You can do it stereo as well. So you can have like, I'm going to bit crush the mids or bit crush the low ends or bit crush the cat. So yeah, Erosion's a really cool plugin. And people, Ableton users should really make use of it because things that like lack frequency in any area, like that's a go-to plugin I always try out, you know, because it can just fill it back out because it distorts it, you know, in a nice, clean manner.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
That is dope. All right. My wife is telling me to wrap it up. We got 2 more songs. What's the story of this last one?
Degenerate?
Yeah.
Okay,
or
so
no,
Degenerate...
Old Blood. Old Blood.
Old Blood is just a continuation about the blood, telling you about the backstory on the Old Blood. There used to be a different sort of blood, and it was cured. It was nice. People kind of got overzealous with their blood and started experimenting with new sorts of blood. Kind of brings you to the spoiled blood situation. And that's what we have now is the spoiled blood. This is kind of like a precursor tune, and I just thought it was kind of an interesting way to put it in the record, which is why it's after spoiled blood. Even though it would maybe make chronological sense to be before, but I thought seamlessly wise, it worked that way.
I see. So
Yeah.
the next one is Degenerate with Uber, correct?
Yes, this is one of the collabs. We did this in person together. He came over. He brought me some patches. He's like, I want you to do this in a tune together. He's been watching some Bloodborne playthrough videos. Never played it himself, but he's been watching the playthroughs online. He's like, I want to make a Bloodborne tune with you. And I told him about my EP, and he's like, I want to get in. So that's kind of what we did. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I got it loaded up. Let me know when you got it.
Yeah, count me down with like a finger, I think.
3, 2, 1, play.
You were at my side all along. Tell me, good hunter of the church, have you seen the light? Are my church hunters the honorable Spartans I hoped they would be? To know I did not suffer such denigration for nothing. Thank you kindly. Now I may sleep in peace. Then a beast-possessed degenerate was I. Beast-possessed degenerate was I.
Yeah, it's a little delay at the end. Yeah.
Why is Steam open on my computer right now?
It's God is telling you to play some CS:GO.
Not now, Steam. Skins for later. Sick, obviously. So I'm gonna go right into what somebody was talking about here. I'd love to hear what the story on that wonky ARP lead, which I wrote down as the sick digital sounds. Those.
Is it in the intro or is it in the drop?
In the drop. The.
Oh, so the bloop. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the sound I made.
It's sick.
It's just this. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't have the tune in front of me right now. To pull up.
Do you think it is some
I don't
sort of
really
step
know.
sequencer?
I think what I use is arpeggiator in Massive.
Okay.
No, the stepper. And I just drew in some random intervals, and then that I used to modulate all the parameters. So I press like my E note, it's bloop. And it obviously has further processing on it. This tune had quite a bit of resampling, and this was a fun tune to write. The main set, though, is an Uber bass, and then one of my basses layered together. So, and that's some shit we did in Disabled too. A lot of our basses are actually layered together to make a bass that we would have never made on our own, you know.
I love that.
Yeah, and then in this. Uber's kind of illiterate with Ableton, so a lot of this was like me on the mouse, but him kind of produces me along the way.
Mm-hmm.
The second drop is the same as the first because I sent him the stems to rearrange a new second drop at home, and he never did. And I was like, yo, the EP is coming out. And otherwise, I would have rearranged it, but I thought it was kind of a good enough first drop that it kind of worked to be played. I know Must Die does that, and I have a lot of tunes where I've written that I just nail in so hard that I would never want to do a second drop because I feel like it's pretty perfect. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This tune, there's probably a few things I would have done differently, not to make it better, but just a little variation. And but I didn't. And but it's cool because the second drop has these really nice like throaty like growl sounds that Uber used to use a lot. Like that's kind of how I knew of Uber, like back in like Plan 9 and all that stuff. And he like did not want to use them, and I was like, "Yo, dude, you are sending me these sounds because we're putting them in our collab because it like fits the vibe." And I eventually convinced him to do it, and we did it. And there's like that long note, which is like a staple of our tunes as well. There's a lot of things we do in this tune that is kind of like what we do when we write together. Yeah.
That's super sick.
Yeah. But also, we got some cool people in the house. We got Al Ross who just walked in right now.
Yo.
Hey, dude. And we have Yak sitting here right next to me. Yeah.
I don't have my sound effects. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I can Google an air horn real quick.
Oh, it's on my phone. I just don't have my phone.
Hold on.
Thank you. I felt guilty that I didn't have it with me.
It's okay. I compensated.
Okay.
Stobe just said, how loud is the kick? Typically, when I do kicks, they're probably around like 20 dB above 0. And the rest of my tune is like around 0. It's or maybe a little more. Because the thing that is really dangerous to distort is high end, and my synths have a lot of high end. Kicks don't necessarily have so much high end. From just me personally, and I think a lot of people probably agree with it, just distorting high end is really danger zone. It sounds really bad. But with like kicks and snares and things that are like in the lower range, you can push them a lot more and get distortion that actually sounds pleasing, you know?
It's like almost entirely opposite of what I would think. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Because traditionally, so if we want to go like traditional with it, low end you don't distort or push as loud because you introduce harmonics and it changes the sound, you know?
Yeah.
So when you're hoping to change the sound through distortion, then it's fine and it's perfect and it sounds good. It's
exactly.
So funny.
And I don't just boost the signal up and like, oh, it's good. I like EQ the distortion out. Like if there's anything that sounds displeasing, I will EQ it out. And if I can't EQ it out, I'll either change the sample, which I do a lot, or I'll just bring the volume down after it's been EQ'd so that it actually still is pleasing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had instances like on my tune Karatas, I got a huge backlash on my kick for whatever reason. And literally, it like I spent forever on that kick, and it sounds like, in my opinion, on my monitors at home, That's like my favorite kick I've ever like made and mixed. But like people are like, "Oh, this kick sucks."
The world isn't ready. All right, they're not ready for that.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, but yeah, the kick is 20 dB above zero. It's 20 dB in the red.
Boom. Along those lines, Into G Official was talking, and he said, initially he said the snare cuts through really well, and now he's saying, yeah, how do you get the snare so clean and cutting through? It doesn't sound like there's a lot of sidechain. I would say you probably 100% sidechain, right?
Dude, the sidechain is violent.
Yeah.
Okay, when my drums happen, nothing else is playing at the same time.
Yep.
Like, not an effect, not a reverb, not a hi-hat. Everything is just cut out. Like, I will either manually make sure nothing's playing. When I do hi-hats, all my hi-hats are after or in between the kick and the snare. So that everything is just the only thing playing when it happens. And my side chaining is very aggressive. I use white noise and I do infinity ratio, infinity threshold. But I use a very fast release so that you're not hearing a lot of pumping, you know? And I also don't use limiter. I do use limiters, but a very little bit. I use a clipper so that it chops it off, and then I limit a very little amount because clippers have an infinite release time, or a negative release time, rather. There's no release. So it happens instantaneously. With limiters, there's a release. And when you have a release, it takes time for it to do gain reduction. And when you're hearing that time for it to come back to the signal, you're going to introduce pumping into your sound. And you don't want to hear pumping when you're doing anything. That's why it's good. And most master engineers who are actually like really pro, they clip their signal, but they're like, it's like 2-3 dB, just the drums and the kicks, you know? And then they do their limiting. But we're not doing like rock or pop records. We're like making banger EDM tunes. So I'm going to go really intense and make sure that everything is like present and loud. And I'm going to kind of push the envelope a little further that maybe a pop record would, you know?
Yeah, I would say we're making experimental music, you know? That's part of what I love.
Another thing I do to make sure that it happens is I dip out frequencies. So like if the snare's at 200 hertz, every sound in my track will have no 200 hertz. So that in case the sidechain isn't long enough, there still isn't like a frequency clash with it, so that region of the sound, which is the most important for snares, the fundamental, can still come through.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So this is the last of the like canon of the release, right? What's the story on Degenerate?
I honestly have no idea. It's about Ludwig, and he was a former hunter, I believe, who I think maybe drank too much blood, because this is part of the DLC, and I didn't finish playing the DLC. This was Uber's idea to do this tune, and it was after all my other tunes. So I was like, okay, it makes sense because it's like kind of like a predecessor to the actual base EP. And what is this?
Orange chicken, but it's
I can't eat it, man.
It's tofu.
It's probably deep fried. Sorry. People are handing me food and stuff. What's it called? I know Ludwig is a former hunter, and he becomes like a monster, and you need to kill him. And he says he can rest in peace. I think it's because he's become something he doesn't really want to be through probably like an excess usage of like pale blood. And you basically have to kill him to put him like out of his misery, you know? And I think that's kind of what the tune is. It's not necessarily like a key plot point, but it's kind of like an interesting element to the story. Yeah.
Putting the crowd out of their misery. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get to this last one. This is you and Digitist, Deadly Duo. By the way, I went to Beatport and Digitist isn't on there. Did you see that?
That's messed up. Is it listed as my tune?
Yeah.
Yo. Okay, so that's this tune. Digitist definitely worked on.
I see what you're trying to do here, all right?
I was like, yo, Melvin, just put it as music. No. I'll have to message him about that after the show.
Yeah, it's fixable for sure, but...
Yeah.
Okay, so Deadly Duo, this is the last tune. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, play.
Let me guess. Snatched by a shadowy limb and dragged off to the past. We are both strangers in this strange land. At least now there are two of us. You again. Put some spring into your step. Yes, of course. Exactly what happened to me. We are both strangers in this strange land. At least now there are two of us. Feeling the heat? I'll be seeing you if you survive your travels.
If you survive.
So this is actually, I had a play out of this a long time ago, and I think it's a pretty early
definitely.
play out.
Yeah, we did it together, and I was like, "Oh, we need to send this to Andrew because he will have some feedback on it."
And I like what's happened to it. So it had a longer intro a long time ago, right? It had like a Digitist intro, which is like 900 bars long.
No, it was just 32. Now it's 24.
Glad someone else thought that was funny.
You're killing Alex right now.
It's so true, though.
9 bars long. I'm just a pad.
And then you got some vaporwave going on, or like some harps.
And then it goes 80s.
Yep. Speaking of melodies and 80s and all that awesomeness, I love that there's a melody in this tune. There's actually, I don't really need to put the caveat for dubstep, but for dubstep, I'd say there's a good amount of melody in this drop, even if it is just, within 4 notes or whatever, but it's sick.
Yeah,
It keeps it interesting.
definitely.
You know what my favorite part was?
No, I'm not a mind reader, man.
The last 16 of the actual second drop. Like,
Okay, yeah, cool.
it's like, because you kind of switch it up and it's almost like you're like, well, let's scale it back a touch. And it almost seemed to kind of like groove a little harder on the beats, which is sick. I actually really like that
Nice.
part.
So yeah, here's kind of what happened with this tune. Spencer provided me with this like one patch, which is like what he uses for like machine guns or whatever. But he just plays like quick notes, so it's like a machine gun, but it's actually a long sound. So I like mutated it into that like violent growl sound, which is what you hear throughout the whole tune.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wrote the whole first drop, and he was kind of behind my back, like, "Oh, do this, don't do that," just producing me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he also gave me a pack of like some Dark Souls sounds too, like the "You Died" sound at the end. Like when you die, you hear that sound. That's
Okay.
and that's what we used. So he provided that, and the whole second drop is him rearranging the first drop
Nice.
with like some of my input. So that like flow was like mainly Spencer's doing. Digitist, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We use artist names here. All right.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I really liked it. We've talked about a lot so far. I mean, this track features a lot of that really cool panning stuff that you do.
Definitely.
And you use
Yeah.
it kind of like a fill. It seems,
course.
the main basses that are hitting are center because that's like your subject content, and then when
Exactly.
you're doing fills and features and stuff, they seem to occupy the sides.
Yeah. So I have a huge issue when people like I can't really handle rhythm tunes because it's like a lot of an onslaught of like one sort of pattern or sound, and things need to happen to like contrast that like one main pattern. So having a main pattern is totally fine, and like every bro step producer who like makes millions of dollars or whatever, like Zomboy or whatever, has a main pattern. But the reason they get away with it is because they have like cool things that happen in between every segment. So every 8 bars, they either do like a fill, a pan, remove a sub, remove some cymbals, do a different sound, something that keeps it interesting. And that's kind of something that like I like to do in my tunes, even though my music is like a little more like raw and aggressive than an average bro step tune. But the tunes that are successful have some sort of like contrast that happens within the tune, so that you're not listening to one pattern repeated for a prolonged period of time. Which is a good way. Like when the fills happen, I like not the fills, but like panning or stuff. I typically remove like cymbals as well, so that you can kind of focus on that panning that is occurring.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention, I think it's in the first or second tune that we played tonight. Do you find yourself copying the rhythm of the bass with the hi-hat identically? So like you'll make the bass patch and then you'll take the hi-hat, and on every articulation of the bass you have a hi-hat hit?
Okay, so it depends. On a lot of tunes, basically every time I do a tune, I either just try to put a hat on the upbeat or a crash on 1 and 3. So you have half note crashes, or you either have quarter note or eighth note hats on every upbeat, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't work or correspond with the tune, I'll either try it doing the exact same pattern as the synths, and if that doesn't work, I'll remove them completely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Shaboom. Because I know a lot of people, and you came from a neuro background, which makes so much sense now, is why your sound design is so granular and articulate. And like,
Thank you.
But a big thing for those basses, a big secret is layering Foley or percussion sounds on the attacks of your sounds.
Yeah, and what it really fills them out and like gives an organic texture that like wouldn't otherwise be there, as well as a rhythm. When you have a contrasting element that's like up here and you have something that's down here, you can kind of like follow that groove, whatever that pattern may be, because you have those two entities that are following the same sort of rhythm section, and that is like your like focal rhythm, which is kind of what the audience hears when they're like hearing your songs.
Yeah, I mean that's our words for most of our music. It's our lyrics.
Yeah.
Sick. Well, we went a little long, and that's totally fine because this was totally awesome. Guys. No, this was really good. I'm glad you had so much to say about your release, because I know, like, especially since my favorite genre is jump up. I'm sure not every jump up EP you couldn't do this long of a talk with, because it would just be like, yeah, well, the 16 was dope, and then I looped it, and then I played it for a week and then I made another one, you know? So it's like,
Yeah,
it was cool to have
definitely.
this much story behind the release. And it definitely sounds like you took a lot of time and care. I can hear the time and care in the
oh my
mix
God,
downs and the chopping and the second drops and all that stuff. So congratulations on the release, man.
Thank you. I hope other people like it as well, and I appreciate anyone who does like it because it's like a piece of me, you know. And if anyone like digs it, it's like so cool. Like I appreciate it more than like anyone can imagine, really, to be honest.
It's because they're digging you.
Yeah, yeah, it's what it is. It's like, yo, if you like my music, you like me.
That's awesome, dude. All right, well, I want to say thanks to everybody who tuned in. We plan to do more of these in the future. I don't think they're ever going to have a regular time. I think they're going to end up usually a day or two before or on the day of a release.
Yeah.
But shoot me a message, anybody, if you know of a release that's coming out that we should cover and you'd like to see the artist talk about their tune, because this is awesome for me. I love it. So
yeah.
Dude,
thank you so much for having me on. I'm like super excited that you included me in this like historical moment, and thank you for everyone for like tuning in and like hearing what I had to say, like my nerdy talk about my record and my production. And I hope you guys like got some insight on it. And shout out to Yax, he's on his phone right now. We have sudden death over there. Yax's girlfriend's in the kitchen. I don't know if I can get her. Al Ross is in the bathroom doing who knows what. But we have a squad out here, and it's just really cool to be a part of all this.
Definitely, dude. I will be in touch.
Yeah.
Later.
Thank you, everyone.
Peace, everybody.
All right. Peace out.